Welcome to the Permission Mission Show. My name is Mary McElhatton. We are live here in Las Vegas with a very special guest, very good friend of mine, Erica. We are going to share and talk about a topic that most people will avoid when it comes to addiction. Most families don't want to talk about it because it's a tough one. It's one of those ones that we most times just don't know what to do or say, and most people just don't want to hear any more about it, right? Because it's tough and they can't do anything about it anyway. But today we are here live to open up the discussions. Permission Mission is a platform to be able to normalize the conversation of mortality so that we are better prepared in our own passing and also find peace in those who have passed before us. I've shared my story on the show a few times, but I'm going to turn it right over to have the discussion open with Erica Cassell. She is a beautiful makeup artist. She is a hard worker. She is on fire to take life on by the reins and just make a difference in the world. You've got a huge heart. So Erica, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And I do want to share something. So we were planned to share last week. Something had come up to change the plans. And when I asked you to share this week, just tell the audience what today is for you.
You make me cry.
Yeah,
today is my sister's birthday. My brother too. Can't forget Michael. But my sister died, 8 years ago, 2016. Yeah.
And it's her birthday today.
Yeah. It is. She would have been 32.
She would have been 32 today.
Thankfully, I still have my brother, though. They're twins.
They're twins. So you have a family. Your mom was lucky enough to be blessed with twins.
Yes.
I think.
And my aunt.
And your aunt.
Yes.
So
her
there's
sister.
Like a possibility, maybe you.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
My mom had 11 single births.
Wow.
So I was always fascinated that they could come in 2s or 3s or 4s,
Yeah.
We live in a
that would
different
be
world
my luck
today.
for sure.
So your sister, Lexa, passed away 8 years ago, and she passed away due to an addiction. Is that correct?
Yep. It was an acute heroin intoxication.
Okay. All right.
My sister had been clean for, I think, about 2 years. And she literally used one time, and it was her last time.
It was her last time.
Yeah. She had been clean and just used once, and it was laced with fentanyl.
So fentanyl's been around for more than just recently. I've only heard about a lot more fentanyl cases recently, but it's been around for a while.
It's been around. It's getting worse, I think, too.
Certainly it is. We've got statistics that show that the drug uses are not going to slow down anytime soon. They've been around for thousands of years. People have been using opiates back in the biblical days. And I think with us speaking up, Erica, about addiction and about losing loved ones and about not letting it, not letting something so difficult keep us quiet, but be more open, more educated about it. Because the mission for Permission Mission is to educate people also on the importance of death. I think had your sister, my siblings, my nieces, my aunt had been educated more about death in high school or elementary school, possibly some things could have been different by choices that they made. I don't know. I just think that having it silent is producing more deaths than it is actually openly speaking about it.
Yeah, and I feel like people don't know about it until it happens to them. And I can just say that for myself. I would have never in my wildest imagination thought my sister would die, ever. I thought if anything, I'd go first.
So you had just no discussions in your family. It was just something that happened.
And it was a shock. It wasn't planned. I think that's the hardest part for me with my sister not being here is nobody knew. And she was across country. She was in New Jersey. So I got a call. I remember 2:00 in the morning. My stepdad my dad, I usually don't say that. He called and he's like, Erica, get over here right now. And I was like, what? It's 2:00 in the morning. He's like, just get over here. So I get over there. I remember I walked in, he's up the stairs, just crying, like going back and forth. I see my other older brother at the table crying. I'm like, well, what's wrong? Like, no one would tell me, you know? And then I walk out the backyard. My mom and my brother are hugging. I'm like, oh, fuck, it's Alexa. Excuse my language. And then I just heard she died. And I was like, what? Like, it was just shocking. You know, you don't know about death until you experience it, you know?
Yeah.
So it was like shock, like the biggest shock of my life.
What makes you angriest about the way your sister passed?
The angriest?
What makes you angry about it?
I think the events leading up to it. You know, my mom wanted to go. My sister died in March. My birthday's in February. My sister and my mom wanted to go to New Jersey to go see Alexa. And at the time, I was like, oh no, work this, work that, work this, work that. Not knowing till later that I had PTO, that I could have implemented and just used it and gone. But you know, at the time, my mindset was like work, 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 work. So then when Lexi died, it changed, right? So now it's like, if my family calls, it does not even matter what it is. I don't care where I'm at. I answer. And if I can't answer, I'll text like something. I think that's what makes me the most angry, is I had a chance. Like, had we been there, seen where she was living, seen what she was doing, maybe it would have changed.
Maybe I really talk loud and proud about that. It's not about how we die. It's about when we die, more so than how, because we all have permission to go. Some go in ways that are way more hurtful than others. And not really, you know, like, I mean, I have addiction in my family, my child. I have 2 children that have addictions. And, you know, I was the mother who said, if I didn't do them, they won't do them. I was that naive to think that that would somehow make a difference in my own family. But drugs are like death. I mean, they're inevitable.
They're everywhere.
Everywhere. And I don't even know any family out there that hasn't had some tie to them somehow, some way.
I think the most important thing people don't realize is addiction affects everybody. It doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care what you look like. It doesn't care what tax bracket you're in. It affects everybody.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. And it's,
I mean, you look at my parents, both my mom and my dad, they never had addiction issues with substance.
no. So,
But our family did. There was a lot of us.
yeah.
A lot of the cousins, quite a few.
Big family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your risks are higher.
I think maybe only one of my mom's one of 5. I think only one of her siblings, the kids, didn't have some form of addiction issue.
How has this changed your family since Alexa's passing?
I would say my mom and I have always been close. My mother has always been in my life. But when my sister passed, my mother and I's relationship strengthened. My only regret and only wish is that it didn't take losing my sister for that to happen. But now it's like I'm the only daughter.
You've got a lot of shoes to fill.
You can't fill those shoes. I always we used to joke and say like, oh, well, I'm the favorite and I'm the favorite and I'm the favorite. And now it's like Alexa's the favorite and it's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
That's funny. That goes on in my family too. My children, I was working one day and I looked at my phone. It was ringing and it says my favorite daughter. And I thought, who's my favorite daughter? I have 5 daughters. How is this even? I didn't put this in my phone. Come find out that my daughter had put in, the one who thinks she's the favorite, put in her name as my favorite daughter. So we have that in our family too, Erica. We do.
Yeah, Lexi did that to my mother. She sure did. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. You know, we all want to think we're the favorites. I want to think that
my fights about this though. Like we had a physical fight once about that.
You did.
Yeah, she was crazy.
Because she wanted to be the favorite?
I mean, she knew she was. I always say my brother was because Michael's the baby, but
Yeah. As a mother, here's how I explain to my kids. You're all my favorite, and you're different with me. So the love's different,
yeah,
It just is. But they're all my favorite. I love them all equally, just differently a little bit because they're so different. And I love that. I wouldn't want all the kids the same. I'd want them to be
different.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you got the call, you're how old?
When she passed?
Yeah.
26.
So you're 26 years old,
26.
around 26 years old.
I was 20. I just turned 26.
Okay. Had you had any prior discussions or had you lost anybody before Alexa?
Yes.
You had.
Yeah, so I'm in recovery too.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I was 5 years. Was I 5 years clean when Lexi passed? Yeah. Prior to her passing, I had an ex-boyfriend of mine who overdosed and died, and I also had someone else I was dating at the time that overdosed and died too. So
Wow.
I've seen it.
You've seen it. You've been in it.
Yeah.
It's real for you.
Mm-hmm.
What keeps you in recovery?
My sister.
She does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think for me, like I always said, if something takes me out today, it's not going to be drugs. I'm not going to put my mother through that again. She did it, and that's it. It'll be something like else. I don't know. Something else.
If she were here today and it's on her birthday, what would she want?
Probably a glass of Pinot Grigio.
Pinot Grigio. I join her. It's kind of one of my favorites too.
She loved that. She also we have quite a few nieces and nephews now. She only got to meet Nicole, so I'm assuming she would want to be with the kids.
She wouldn't want to hang out with the kids.
She loved my niece. Oh my God! Since the day they found out they were having a baby, my older brother, she was like cloud nine.
Do you feel her still with you, pushing
Always.
you? Yeah.
Always, yeah. I haven't had a lot of dreams. Sometimes she comes to me in my dreams too, but I feel her. I can hear her voice.
Can you?
Mm-hmm. Just saying stupid things.
Stupid, silly things as sisters.
Pranking me. So like my sister used to prank me all the time. We used to prank each other. So
best prank ever.
Oh, I don't know. But last night I got into my car and somehow my Red Bull ended on my seat. And then I was thinking about it and I was like, I wonder if that was Alexa like messing with me.
Putting your Red Bull on the seat?
Just how it fell and it was everywhere.
Oh no. Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I'm trying to think best
She's
prank
like,
ever. I don't know. We had a lot.
You were those type of siblings, sisters
We
who
always,
kind of pranked, who one-upped each other?
Always.
Always, yeah. You made it fun and interesting.
Always.
That's very special. I mean,
yeah.
It really is a bummer to lose a loved one to addiction.
Yeah, it was the hardest thing I've ever gone through in my life. It didn't make sense to me. It still doesn't. I always ask God, I'm like, why was it Alexa? Why wasn't it me? Because I was in my addiction for almost 3 years. And then when I finally got clean and found out Lexi was using, that conversation I had to have with my mom about it was tough, because their relationship was so solid. And I was like, oh, my mom's not going to believe me, but I'm like, I have to tell her. Right.
Yeah.
And then once it came out, I used to tell Lexi, I'm like, Lexi, you don't have to do this. I did this for the both of us. You don't have to do this. You can get away from it. And it just sucks that that's what took her life,
Yeah. What is being an addict yourself in recovery? What is it you would want someone, because I struggle with this sometimes I have a son who's active, always praying for him every day. I have a daughter who is in recovery. What is it that you would say to someone like me who's just waiting and hoping that their loved one would get out of addiction.
Don't lose hope.
Don't lose hope.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the involvement, because sometimes I feel so guilty about, like, should I be doing more? Should I be going after them more? Should I be running them down? And I've done all that. And so any advice that you could give us parents out there who, feel like we need to be doing more, or we're not doing enough?
I think you need to cut your child off completely, 100%. And I think that's what really helped me too, is my dad and I are so close. We've always been so close. So when I was really active in my addiction, he completely cut me off. Like, wouldn't even speak to me.
Really?
And I think that played a huge role for me, because knowing my relationship, knowing how much I love my dad. My dad is everything to me. I think that helped. Like, he gave me tough love, and I know it wasn't easy. I mean, he used to tell me, I was just waiting for the phone call that she passed away, that you overdosed. She's like, that's what I was waiting for, because I knew it was going to happen. And then this is why I say don't lose faith. My grandmother used to tell him, she's going to get out of this.
Mm.
So it's like, I think all of it played its part. My mom was ultimately the one that got me out of the situation, because I had called her. Her and my other dad came and got me. But they didn't want me around my brother and my sister, so they took me to a hotel. But I think you have to show your child tough love, as hard as that is on you. You have to.
You have to, yeah.
And you have to know, you have to have hope. Like, ultimately, it's hope. You just have to have hope.
I have a lot of that. I have a lot of faith.
If you don't have hope in them, how do you think they'll have hope in themselves, right? I always knew I was going to get out. I just didn't know when.
You just knew that people had the hope and faith that you were going to get out of it, and then cut the ties, though, while you're in it active, because there really is nothing someone can do to get you out of it until you're ready.
You have to do it yourself. It's 100% you. You have to take accountability. You have to admit all the wrongs you've made. I think this is why a lot of addicts don't do it, is because it gets to that point of those conversations, like admitting your wrongdoings and being willing to make amends to everything,
Yeah.
But that's the one thing I have done, is I've admitted everything that I did wrong. As hard as it was.
What does that give you today to do that?
I think it just shows my strength. I know what I've done in my life. I'm not proud of it. It's terrible, some of the things. But that made me who I am now.
Sure.
Yeah.
You wouldn't trade it?
No. I wouldn't go back to it, though. I don't want that life. That was terrible.
Yeah.
It was terrible, honestly.
What is it? I've always heard addicts don't want to be in addiction. I've always heard that they still love their families. Like, don't say mean things to them, because they still feel and hurt. It's almost as if, though, they just don't have the energy to get out of it until there's, like, all the stars line up. And maybe a person admits to, like, this is not the life they want to wake up to anymore. They want something different.
I think people don't realize how physically dependent you become to a substance.
Physically more than
mentally.
Mindset?
I think it's both. When you're talking about withdrawal symptoms from opiates, you're physically dependent. Like, for me, if I did not do it, I was sick. Like, sick, sweating, throwing up, heart palpitations, you name it. And then mentally, I got clean a couple times before I ultimately got clean.
Yeah.
And it's like something will happen. Well, I got to get high, because that's the only thing that's going to block it out.
And it does for a while.
It does for a matter of minutes, really. And when you fall asleep, you wake up, it's back.
It's back 10 times.
Yeah.
Stronger.
Yeah.
Well, I know that I'm never going to be able to end addiction or end drug use or end the things that take our life. But I do believe that us as people are smarter. I believe that once we realize that we're not in this world alone and that we will all live and we will all die, that we can rely on one another a little bit more to help. You know, when you think of addiction, how did people treat you when you were in active addiction?
I was treated differently by everybody.
Differently.
Yeah, I had people attack me because I was an addict. I had people encourage me to be an addict.
Mm.
I had some that, felt sorry that was in the situation I was in. I mean, I had all of it, honestly. But I think you shouldn't attack somebody because they're a drug addict. We don't choose to be that. It's a disease at the end of the day.
Well, there's a lot of people who understand that, and there are some people who still think that addicts are just the low life.
I'm not I mean, I'm a recovering addict, and a lot of people tell me, well, don't say you're a recovering addict. Addict is bad. But it's like, no, I am. And I feel like, honestly, addicts are the smartest people in the world. Because if you think about it, we have to figure out, like for me, I was homeless at one point, but I'm still figuring out how to get high. So our brain is just always figuring stuff out. The average human being, they don't do that. They just stay there, be in their little pity party. Us, we're just going.
You're working it, like
Yeah.
survival.
Yeah, survival.
And
exactly.
figuring things out. That's interesting. I never thought about it like that, but I have always said that the people who are addicts are typically our most sensitive people. Like
Yeah.
they are loving, they're caring, and then they're faced with a world that hits them every single day with uncaring people, with unloving situations, and it's like, what the heck? What's the use? Why not just get high all the time? Because
people automatically judge. Like, you can tell. You can. I mean, for me, I can see an addict. I can see it. I know, and I could probably tell you what they're on, because I've been around it that much. But it's like you see them, and then people just, they look disgusted. They're like, oh, they're on drugs. They're this. They're that. Like for me, it's like I'll say that because I know.
Gotcha.
I'm not judging them. And for me, I wish I could save them all, but you can't. I've learned that you can't save people. They have to save themselves. That's just what it is.
Yeah. They want to got to have a desire to live.
Yeah.
Right? A desire to live for their reasons.
I remember for me, I went to rehab in California. I was, 19? Michael Jackson had died. I'll never forget, because he was on the cover of a magazine. And I was in a meeting, and I heard someone say, well, I got clean right before I turned 21. And that just stuck with me. And I got clean right before I turned 21, like a month and 12 days.
So you had heard it to actually kind of process it in and then say, I'm gonna get clean.
Yeah, I was done. I mean, I'm one of the more fortunate ones, because I was just done. I'm still done. I didn't have to go to rehab this last time. I got clean cold turkey, which is unheard of. I mean, everyone I know has had to go to some sort of rehab. I did counseling in the beginning 3 days a week. That really helped. I've done my recovery this time different than the past, because the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
So I did. I mean, most people in recovery would be like, oh no, Erica's not clean because I didn't do it their way. Their way of going to a meeting every day, and that kind of stuff for me is hard. It's really hard, because I lost my sister. So it's like when I walk in, that's what I feel.
It brings up just
trauma.
A reason probably to keep going out versus.
Yeah, and I don't like to see people in, meetings that are high. I mean, all that kind of stuff triggers me. And I try to make my life the way I need it to be in order to stay clean.
So you say something very powerful there. There's not a particular way. There's just a way for a person to navigate that works for them.
Yeah.
I love all the recovery groups out there. I love the churches that our church has
Churches
a
are
wonderful
great.
recovery group. And they work. I mean, I see thousands and thousands of people who are in constantly
Mhm.
at these recovery groups, and they work. So I would say to anybody, if you're, wanting to get plugged in, find the walk for yourself of what's going to work. Because that's really interesting that you say, when you go into a meeting that can trigger you to go backwards.
It triggers me personally.
So you just keep navigating towards what's going to keep working for you.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I've been into meetings and I've seen the drugs that I used to use. I mean, that's like the biggest trigger for me. Granted, I'm strong enough to say no. But what if I'm having a bad day and I see something like that? I can't tell you what I'm going to do because I have to stay in today. I can't think about tomorrow.
Yeah. Just in the moment.
Yeah, I mean, they say one day at a time. I've been one day at a time for 13 and a half years. I don't think about tomorrow. I just stay in today. Recently I really thought I was on the verge of a relapse and I had to talk myself out of it. It scared me. But what I do know is, as an addict, in order for you not to do something, like to not relapse and things like that, you have to talk about it. So the first thing I did, called my dad. I told him, Erica, are you nuts? I'm like, you got to hear me out, Dad. Like, hear me out.
He probably only heard you're going to go back out instead of, Dad, I'm thinking about
Why
it.
would you do that? That makes no sense. You sound so stupid. I'm like, Dad, just listen. Like, I have to talk about this to get this out. Because if you get it out, it won't stay in. I think that's one thing people don't realize either.
Gosh, that can be used in so many different avenues of life.
Yeah.
It's like, talk about it, talk about it.
You have to have uncomfortable conversations sometimes.
I appreciate you having this uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's okay. I've never really shared my story. Like, I've told people bits and pieces, but I haven't fully shared it. It's hard for me. I have mild PTSD. Most people don't know that.
Wow.
Mild. I'm not, bad, but I get flashbacks. And when the flashbacks come, it's really tough. I don't even think my parents fully know that.
I hope you share it one day to get it out and not let it embarrass you. Because I think addiction, I think, well, it's like death, talking about death. It's like, it's embarrassing. It's sad. It's depressing.
It's
depressing.
Like,
what can we do though to get past all of those words that really don't matter, other than let's openly discuss things that are about life and death. I mean, because they all work hand in hand. And I mean, I never want anybody to feel alone in their loss.
I mean, neither. I always tell my friends that you're not alone. Like, they'll be going through something and I always write that because I think that's the most important thing people need to know. No matter what it is in life, you're not alone. I always tell people, I understand how you feel because of this. Well, I've been through so much. I mean, I'm 34, but in my 3-year drug life, like, alone was enough for the rest of my life.
For the rest of your life.
Yeah. I've seen so much. I don't even like to talk about it. I've seen it all. And I think for me with addiction, I've seen both sides. Most people only see one. Either you're an addict or you're the family member.
Okay.
I've seen both. I've walked the life of an addict, but I've also walked the life of someone who had a family member go through it. And I feel like for me, that was the hardest part. Is I know how my sister was feeling to be in that position.
Yeah. But
then I see how my mother and my dad, everybody felt watching it. Like, that's why I say I've walked, what is it called? Like life and death already.
Sure. I
overdosed. They told my parents I probably wasn't going to make it. I did.
Wasn't your time.
No, that's why I say, I ask myself, I ask God sometimes, like, why was it Lexi and not me? And that's why I ask, because it's like, most people don't make it past that overdose.
Yeah.
The amount I overdosed on.
And of course, when you're overdosing, you're not, I mean, are you thinking about taking your life? or is it just the act of I'm gonna just take a lot because I can't feel the pain anymore?
I think mine was intentional.
Intentional.
Yeah, I like a 3-day, it was like 2-3 day span. I did like over 100 Roxycodone.
Wow. Yeah.
I snorted like 9 Xanax, and I took a pocket full of somas. I don't know how many it was. It could have been 20, it could have been 40. I don't know. The fact that I'm alive is honestly shocking, because when you mix the three.
Well, Erica, it wasn't your time. I mean,
Yes, thankfully.
there's evidence after evidence of people who should have gone and they didn't.
Yeah.
And then there's evidence of people who go that we wish they wouldn't have gone. And,
I just hope my story helps somebody.
I know that it will.
That's all I want.
I'm learning some things from you today that I didn't expect to learn. And I think that I get a little clammy when it comes up for addiction because it's dear to my heart.
It's close to home.
Having children and also grandchildren, and what are the chances, I mean, I was pulling up the USA Today, and
what the chances are, I would say it's like 50-50, honestly.
It is incredible. So believe it or not, but the most common drug of overdose is from obviously opioids and fentanyl.
Mm-hmm.
Oxycodone is up there. We've had a lot of deaths. But what I found interesting is that also alcohol is one of the highest drug uses that people are dying from. It's like alcohol to me used to be, all right, I love an occasional drink, right? But then there are some people who take it a little bit further, and I have had times in my life where I'm like, whoa, a bottle of wine in one night. I think that's a problem. I think that might be a little bit too much. And, thankfully people in my life said something about it. And I'm like, oh, get back and check with myself,
Mm-hmm.
check in. Because I wanted to I think all of us go through life where we just don't want to check in sometimes. We want to check out.
Yeah.
And hopefully we will.
I think alcohol has got to be the worst one of all of them because it's everywhere. You go into a gas station, there's alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't imagine being an alcoholic or a recovering alcoholic, I should say. And it's everywhere. I mean, you walk into a restaurant, there's alcohol. You go into a casino, there's alcohol. Like, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Walmart, Target.
Well, like I said, they're not going to stop. It's not going to stop. It's what can we do as humans? What can we do as people to help ourselves better? To be cautious of making sure that our life is valuable and our death is valuable as well. Do we have we've got some guests, I think, that are actually posting some questions here. Meredith, she shares that her brother and sister-in-law, a very dear friend, passed away from their alcohol addictions.
Yeah.
Yep. I tell you, my heart goes out there to, I had an aunt, my Aunt Carol, who drank her whole life and just no quality,
Yeah,
and
they affect your liver.
She was, and I wish I would have treated her better. I actually didn't treat her bad, but I always remember kind of just being nervous around her because I didn't know if she was going to yell at me or if she was going to hug me.
That was me and my addiction too, my change in temperament. My grandfather was an alcoholic.
Yeah, it doesn't make it easy to avoid it when it is everywhere and it's accessible to everyone. And it seems to be, used to be kind of a casual thing, but it's become where it's just out of hand. But that's how life gets, right?
Have you ever watched Intervention?
I love the show Intervention. It's hard to watch. My family will not watch it with me because it's hard for them. They don't.
But if you see, like, I feel like Intervention is probably one of the greatest shows because it's the most eye-opening and it's the most real. I mean,
sure.
You're literally witnessing what it's like for the family, for the addict, for both. It's hard for me to watch. I cry every time.
I do too.
Every time.
Yeah.
But then when you see, but then there's some cases where you see people recover.
Yeah.
And it's so incredible.
I shout for joy on those ones. I found this interesting. So the highest rate of substance abuse is Montana, Oregon, Washington, South Dakota, Kansas, Nebraska, and more on. So we're not in, Nevada is not in the highest.
I don't believe that.
Again, these are just based on 2023 states of the highest alcohol abuse. We are in that group. Nevada is in the highest rate for alcohol abuse, as well as North Dakota, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Vermont, Iowa, Ohio, Minnesota, Rhode Island, Colorado. I have family in Colorado. Tobacco and cigarette. I mean,
Let's see that.
It's interesting. Tobacco and cigarettes, which we know. I didn't smoke because my parents did, my siblings did, and I didn't want to spend the money on the pack of cigarettes.
Yeah.
I'm one of the lucky ones, but I do know that it's one of the most difficult addictions to get out of.
I have it, I know.
And it does take your life. It took my stepfather's life. It says that Kentucky is the highest, West Virginia, the second highest, Missouri, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Wyoming. Nevada is not in here. I guess Nevada's more on the drinking and the drugs.
No, I'm not buying that one.
There's a lot of people who do alcohol or who do smoke here. Marijuana use. I know that that's become legal. A lot of people think it's okay.
Oh, Nevada's on there for sure.
We are definitely in the top with the highest rate of marijuana use, as well as Vermont, Alaska, Colorado, Oregon, Maine, Washington, and some other states. So I just found that interesting that, we have all these stats, we have all these resources, but more and more we are losing people to these addictions.
Do people die of marijuana use?
There are deaths that occur from marijuana. I think, I've seen where there were accidents where a person who had been smoking marijuana who hit somebody, those kind of things happen.
Okay. I'm just like, can you overdose on marijuana? I don't know. I don't do it, so I don't know.
I am being told, though, that there are people who are lacing marijuana. So for our kids to be cautious, they've been doing that for a while, though. That was back in my high school days. Again, just...
Everyone was upset because I thought they shouldn't legalize marijuana.
Yeah.
But I still feel that way because I feel like marijuana is the gateway. But I have a different outlook. I'm a recovering addict.
Sure.
So for me, the first thing I did in my teens, smoked.
Yeah. I think in anything in life, whether it's food, whether it's marijuana, whether it's alcohol, whether it's whatever, I think a person has to just check in and say, is this impacting my life in such a way that it's taking away my relationships? It's taking away my career, my dreams? Is it
coffee.
Adding? Oh, girl, I had a cup of coffee before I came here. I'm like,
I'm addicted to coffee.
I am not addicted to coffee. I am addicted to coffee creamer.
Coffee creamers are good.
I think the creamer is the thing that does it for me. And who knows, maybe that's even an addiction out there for people getting involved with these creamers.
Coca-Cola's addiction too.
All of these things that harm us or can take the quality of our life are not good for us.
Yeah.
The deal is, though, they're not going to go away. They're only going to get better. They're going to be made quicker, faster. They'll be more accessible to people. And it's up to us to be educated to say, wait a minute, I had a little bit too much wine last night. I don't need it tonight. Or those cigarettes are really starting to affect my lungs. I can see the difference.
Cigarettes is
Maybe
so
it's
hard
time
to quit.
stop.
Tobacco is so hard. I think that one goes hand in hand with alcohol because it is everywhere.
I think what you've overcome is pretty doggone hard too, and you did it. So it's possible for anybody and everyone.
I've quit using tobacco at one point. I quit for 2 years. And then 2020 December, my grandma was in the hospital with COVID. And I was, that time was so different, right? And then I had COVID, so I was cooped up in the house. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I don't smoke marijuana. So what did I do?
You lit up a cigarette.
Yep. And my progress went from here to.
Really? So it made a difference. Well, I think
you just needed something. Like I needed something. I had COVID, so I couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah. We are going to take a commercial to catch our breaths. Take a drink of water. We're drinking water, not coffee here today.
I'm already drinking.
We already had our coffee this morning. And just remember that we are always live here at the WWDBTV for the Permission Mission Show. You can always catch us. Also, if you didn't get to see the show today, you can share it on Permission Mission Facebook, Mary McElhatton Facebook, and also WWDBTV.com. I appreciate you being on being here and listening to our story today that's being shared. We are honoring your sister, Alexa.
Thank you.
We are honoring also the millions of people out there who had lost their life due to addiction. But we're not going to put any more guilt on it. We're here to take a stand and say that people do pass. They pass however they're going to pass. But we are definitely taking more cautious and more reminders and more awareness to learn about mortality so that we can just be better educated.
I think too,
bottom line.
Everyone needs to know that we do recover.
We do recover. Absolutely.
I recovered 13 and a half years. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? We'll be right back. Please stay with us. We'll be right back after the commercial.
Hi, my name is Edgar Alejandro. I'm the co-founder of Rising Again Productions. So we've been here in Vegas producing films for the past couple of years, and we've seen our fair share of studios. We worked in our fair share of studios, and to be honest, WWDBTV has been our favorite by far. John is so welcoming. The space is wonderful. It's perfect for what we need. We've had rehearsals here. We've had callbacks here. We've had table reads here. So if you're a Vegas creative, or really just a creative coming into Vegas, definitely check out this space. Chat with John. I think you'll find that this studio has everything that you'll need as well.
Hello, my name is Mona Van Joseph, and I'm known locally as Mystic Mona. And I want to welcome you to a new program here on WWDB-TV called 3. 3 is an amazing concept where a caller will call in, they will ask a specific question, and Chris Gray, our astrologer, Rainy Day, our clairvoyant medium, and myself, I'm an intuitive tarot consultant, will actually answer your one specific question. So all I want you to remember is 3.Vegas, one question, 3 readers, 3 answers, exclusively here on WWDB-TV.
Welcome back to the Permission Mission Show. My name is Mary McElhatton. I am here with our guest, Erica. Today, we are sharing and talking openly and boldly and proudly about addiction. We are honoring her sister who passed away years ago, Alexa. Mm-hmm. And we are also not going to be quiet about a conversation that's tough. Addiction's tough.
Very. Families
fight, bicker, argue, throw people out. We get, to the last draw. And what you shared earlier, Erica, is just powerful because I think parents are so afraid, but we've got to cut all ties.
You have to. You have to.
Talk more about that because as a parent, it's so difficult to just say, I love you. And at this moment, I remember saying to my child, I love you, but I can't live for you anymore.
I think
I'm not
a parent. So a lot of people are like, well, you're not a parent, so you can't say this. And I can tell you from experience as a child, when you're in your addiction, all you want to do is get high, drink alcohol. There comes a point where you have no money, right? So you go to the people closest to you. If you're a parent and you're constantly giving them money, and they're going to tell you, oh, it's for food. Oh, it's for this. It's not. It's for one thing and one thing only, and that's to get high or to, get drunk.
Yeah.
And if you constantly enable somebody, how are they going to get better? They can't. Because they're like, oh, well, my mom and my dad or my grandma or this person, they're going to give me this so I can continue. They'll never get better. They're just going to continue.
What would you say to a person who has wanted to get clean and sober, but still keeps falling backwards?
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Sometimes in recovery, you have to take it, like they say, one day at a time. But sometimes you have to take it as simple as 1 second. And I say that honestly because I have had many times, especially in the very beginning, I was like, I don't know if I can do this. But then it was that will in my heart that was like, Erica, just keep going. But I always say, sometimes you got to keep it 1 second at a time. And then the parent, I can only imagine like how a parent feels watching their child go through something like that. It's got to be traumatic.
It's very traumatic. I
Gotta
love the analogy my mom uses, and she says, when your children are little and they're under your feet, they're safe. But when they're older, they're under your heart.
Yeah.
Because they are adults, and it's so hard to watch them go through hurt and pain and all that. However, that's what truly makes them the person, the adult that they'll become. We wouldn't be who we are today had we not experienced the things in our life that made us who we are today.
Yeah.
So it's fair enough to say that that's for them too.
Yeah. I recently got fired for the first time in my life.
Awesome. I always say, you.
No, and
That's a huge,
I
wonderful lesson. I mean, it's
I
awesome.
can't even talk about it, but all I could say is it really mentally and emotionally affected me. And I say that because you guys now heard some of my past, right?
Yeah.
You see where I come from. I'm not that person anymore. So to get fired, I'm not going to talk about exactly why, but for something I didn't do is really hard because I come from an addict life, like a recovery, my addiction, where every single thing somebody said I did, I probably did.
Yeah.
To the person that I am today. And it's like, I would tell you if I did something, but I can't tell you if I didn't do it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I feel like it's like, it relates.
Yeah. Being fired is not the worst thing to happen to anybody. I
No,
don't
it's
believe.
okay.
It was one of the best things that happened to me. I knew that I was not really where I wanted to be, and what came out of all of that was the fact that I wasn't making a decision to leave. So a decision was made for me.
Yeah, mine, I told you recently I had a thought of relapsing, and mine was because of that. Because it affected me so much mentally and emotionally that, even 13 and a half years clean, I still was like, well, shit, maybe I should just go get high. But then reality checked in. Erica, you've already lost your sister. You know that your next relapse could be your last.
Yeah.
I think that's something that needs to be talked about. Is, I remember in meetings, I heard that. Well, if you go back out and you relapse, it could be your last. And you're like, oh, no, it won't be,
Yeah.
But the reality for me was it is, because it happened to my sister,
Do you think that that's how you will carry on the message for hope for other people?
Yeah,
and have her legacy stay alive, that she most likely never believed either that it would be her last.
Yeah, I'm sure. I didn't. Every time I've relapsed, I don't know, 6-7 times.
Relapse is a part of recovery.
Yeah.
Right?
I've been to rehab, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. I've been kicked out of rehab after a matter of hours. I've gotten high in a rehab. I got high in a detox. I've pretty much done whatever you could think of when that comes to that.
What drives you?
What drives me is like I said, is my sister, honestly. Like, I was 5 years clean when Lexi passed away. And now I just think that last time could be my last. And I do not want to watch, not even watch, because I wouldn't be here, but I would be in heaven watching her, right? I don't want to see my parents go through that again.
Yeah.
Like, I remember one time, right after my sister passed away, my parents had a blowout fight, and they don't fight. Like, when I tell you these two are soulmates, they're soulmates. But they had a blowout fight over Alexa passing. Like, addiction, affects everybody around you, even after. Because let's say somebody passes away. We have two parents blaming each other.
Yeah.
It breaks up marriages. It breaks up families. You know, and I had to take it amongst myself to call and be like, one of my parents, I told him, I was like, so-and-so misses you. Can you please call them? Like, I didn't even look at them differently because I understand. I understand where they were coming from, both of them.
Sure.
They're hurt.
Yeah.
When you're hurt, you say stupid things, you know?
Oh, I will probably always say stupid things when I'm hurt. And I think if we could just give that compassion to just humans, no matter who they are, that it's worth it's worth the chance. It's worth the hope of that person finally just waking up one day and saying, oh, everybody didn't treat me like crap. Maybe I am worth something. Those people who are out on the streets.
That's why I say you can't attack addicts. Like, some of them, but if the person wasn't on what they're on, would they be that person?
Of course not.
Right.
Of course not.
Right.
Right?
So why attack them? I mean, my dad, I love my father to death, but my dad he's Italian, first of all. He's East Coast. He has absolutely no filter. He
Talks with his hands and blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. Okay.
And
Got it.
he used to like go in on me when I was on drugs. And it was like so hard for me. Even though I was high, it's still,
You heard it.
yeah.
I've done it with my own kids.
Yeah.
And I've had to say sorry. I've had to
You
say.
have to realize at the end of the day, they're a human being, you know?
Excuse me.
And your
Okay.
impact, like you're a mother, right?
Yeah.
Your impact is like the strongest. That's why I say you have to cut your kids off. You have to. Because if you don't, they're just going to continue and think it's okay. They have to see what life is without you to realize why they need to get better to have you back. I mean, for me, that's what happened. Like, I couldn't fathom living without my parents or not seeing my nieces and nephews. I couldn't do it.
No.
That's what drives me. It's family.
Family.
Remember I told you when it happened, I was work.
Yeah.
Now my life revolves around my family.
It's first call. What do you need?
Doesn't matter.
I'm there for you.
Any of my parents
No
call,
matter what.
all four of them. I see them calling. I could be doing makeup. Sorry, I got to take the call. I'm not trying to be unprofessional, but if you knew my past, you'd understand why.
Sure. I think that's beautiful. And I think those are the gifts and the nuggets that we can take and walk away from losing somebody we love, no matter how they pass, is those reality checks that life doesn't last forever. You know, we have these words we kind of throw out there here and there, but living by them, I'm not necessarily sure that we do until we've had a direct impact to losing somebody so suddenly and not realizing, you know, that there's not another day until it happens that we don't have another day with them.
Yeah.
So we are more certain about, like, if somebody needs like on a trip. I mean, I just went to go see my mom, my 40th class reunion. I was very casual about that before, talking about death every day. Very casual. Well, if I make it.
I hate, my dad always says that. Well, maybe I'll die in this plane. I'm like, Dad, stop.
Yeah.
Please.
Don't freak me out.
No,
Don't
I'm like,
fear
please.
it. Just
No,
know that
because-
it's gonna be there one
Yeah,
day.
like I said, I do have mild PTSD. There's something else I have. Attachment. I went through a deep counseling about 2 years ago, and she told me as a psychiatrist. So like all that stuff freaks me out.
Like the detachment of actually losing something. Well, you lost
There's a word
your
for
sister, so that would make sense. Like the you know, when you have little kids and you leave them at the daycare, you know, that that trauma that comes
I have
with
trauma. That's the
trauma.
word. I have emotional trauma many times in my life, but it's like all the losses that I've experienced, you know. And I'm like, I tell my dad and my mom all the time, like, I don't, like my dad specifically, I'm like, I don't know what I'll do without you. I don't even want to think past that. I hope I'm not here for it.
Yeah.
Because I've already experienced so much
Sure.
that I don't want to deal with anymore. I can't do it. because mine started at 19. I remember I was in rehab,
Mm.
and a guy I was dating, I got a call he overdosed, and I immediately relapsed, like right away. Then when I finally got clean, I think it was 2013, my ex-boyfriend, he overdosed and died. Then 2016 was my sister. I remember when I was younger, my dad's best friend, same thing. And I've grown up with it.
Sure.
Addiction affects everybody. Do you not know how I got
It
clean?
does. Tell me how you got clean. Tell everybody
This
how
is
you
a
got clean.
great
'Cause we're gonna-
It was December 31st, 2010. I was outside in the backyard smoking a cigarette with my grandfather, God rest his soul. And I was like, you know what? Everybody makes these New Year's resolutions, right? And they're all unrealistic. Well, I'm going to lose 30 pounds. That's like the biggest one.
Yeah.
And so I sat there and I was like, you know
We're
what?
actually telling ourselves we're probably going to gain 35 pounds.
Right. So I was sitting there and I was like, you know what? I think my New Year's resolution is to be clean for 1 year. I was like, I can do that. And so January 1st, 2011, 11111, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Crazy.
The significance of numbers matter to you.
It is January 1st, 2011.
Like showing up here on the show today with your sister's birthday when we were supposed to do it last week. Like all
Right.
of those things line up perfectly. Not
Yeah.
a coincidence.
I
Okay.
said that day, I was like, I'm going to stay clean for a year. And that is my only New Year's resolution every year. And it's worked 13 and a half years.
There you go.
Yeah. I'm blessed.
Just get intentional about it. I'm sure that you've reached out for a lot of support and help.
I'm so blessed. I have the strongest support system. Not just my family. I have friends. Like I had posted something like I was contemplating a relapse. And if you only seen people, I mean, I had people I would have never thought just telling me like, Erica, I love you. You don't have to do this. I'm here for you. Like I have such a strong support because I've been very open about it. I just haven't ever fully shared my story. But I've just said, yeah, I'm an addict, recovering.
Maybe another show
Maybe.
where it'll be your story.
Maybe.
Okay. Well, I'll always ask. That's the thing. I'm always going to ask and put it out there for an opportunity.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for sharing your sister with us.
Yes.
And I know that,
My angel.
she is your angel and she is probably chuckling and probably had a few more things we should have said on her behalf. But
She's probably saying, you little shit. That's what she used to call me. She used to always call me that.
people get nervous on the show. Can I cuss? I say, no, it's my show. You can do whatever you want.
That's what she called me though. So I mean, I can't like change that.
Yeah, that's kind of what you're hearing, huh?
Yeah.
If any of you out there are struggling with addiction, just listen to Erica's advice.
Don't
Reach
give
out.
up.
Don't give up. Have hope. For us parents who are still dealing with kids and children and grandchildren, we never have to give up. We can always have hope and keep the faith and keep the prayers going. If anyone ever says to you, when you're talking about mortality, you just remind them that Mary said it's okay, that this conversation is absolutely okay to have.
Mm-hmm.
We want it in our homes. We want to have these conversations in our schools. We want to have these conversations in the grocery stores. We want to have them wherever they are needed and necessary for us to have quality of life on a day-to-day basis. It's getting tougher out there. There's just too many temptations, and I get it. Sometimes life gets hard and we just feel like it's the only resort, right? But there's not. There are things like this show that you can share with other people who may be going through the same thing that we have been talking about, addiction and losing someone we love. There are way too many people passing to addiction, more than we want to ever count. But we hope that this show today will be a new starting point, for those who are addicted and those who are dealing with it. Every person's life matters because there's value in life and there's also value in death. Next week, we're going to have a guest on our show who says that there's no such thing as budgeting. Now, this is going to come in hand to those folks out there who feel like you just live paycheck to paycheck, where you're constantly on yourself about budgeting and you get frustrated with yourself. And this gal is awesome. She's got a whole different outlook on how to actually change your mindset around money.
She's incredible.
And when you change your mindset around money, there's plenty to do the things in life that you want to do. And I'm a big fan of doing it now because we never know when our day will end. Thank you for joining us here at the WWDBTV at the Permission Mission Show. Again, my name is Mary McElhatton. This is Erica, my guest today. And we just want to wish you a great, safe week. Check back in with us next week. And we've got some good information to share with you then. Have a great week, everyone.